Hey everybody, here I want to read an email that I received from a customer that sent in a repair. It really makes me sad. I'm not an individual who's going to support every single person just because they are on my ideological side or because we agree in terms of politics, policy, philosophy, or anything like that. And one of the areas that hurts is that I spend a lot of time trying to fight and push back against this narrative that third-party repair is universally bad, that they're always going to be using garbage parts on purpose, not even because the good ones are not available, just because they want to save $1, or they don't have knowledge, and they're going to be experimenting on and destroying your device, and if they destroy your device, they're not going to take accountability for it. Or only the manufacturer knows how this box works, so if you send it to anybody else, bad things will happen. I put a lot of time and a lot of effort into pushing back against this narrative. And when you have people like Tim Hermans or the other people who just figure out how to do this stuff on their own and start very wildly successful businesses, I think there's enough proof out there that this is possible. However, unfortunately, there are also the scumbags in our industry that destroy things, that use bad parts, that don't take accountability or responsibility when something goes really, really wrong with a customer. My answer to this has always been review sites. I don't like a lot of the review sites that currently exist, and there are a lot of people who will just be douchebags and pedantic or just leave fake reviews for the hell of it. But at the end of the day, you can get a general idea of whether or not a place is doing decent work or garbage work, and eventually it does come around to them. In that time frame that it takes for it to come around to them, who knows how many things they're destroying. So I'm going to read you this email that just really made me sad when I received it. Also, my apologies to the individual who sent this email. I was going to respond several weeks ago, but it's been very, very busy at work, so I have not gotten around to it. Hi, Lewis. My name is Redacted. I got a MacBook Pro arrived to your shop a week ago. I'm living in Turkey at the edge of the effing Middle East. I'm an agricultural researcher in Istanbul Technical University. We are actually doing pretty cool stuff for our future. 5 to 6 months ago, my MacBook started to have random kernel panics, GPU errors, and restarts. So I found you on YouTube, watched all your videos that might be related to my problem, and I read your PDF. Also had conversations on Discord with other guys. So for my research, I thought my problem was U8900, soldering was going to fix it. Since I thought it isn't too complicated process, I took it to the local guy to fix it. I was working on a presentation or something, so I needed my computer fast, and I wanted to avoid 50-ish bucks of shipment. It was a mistake. The Turkish guy did something to it. He totally effed it up somehow. My computer was booting before at least 2 to 3 minutes. Probably its chip was getting hot enough to expand and lose contact, and then restarting, but now it's totally black. So I shipped it to you. Now here is the conversation with one of your colleagues. I haven't gotten any answers after that. I can't say that you have to fix it. I can't say that it's your problem, that you guys are not fixing it. It's my mistake. I should have shipped it to you in the first place. All I can do is ask that you be a little flexible in this case and take a look at it on live video so I can show the idiot that was supposed to fix it. I don't know why, but I have a huge trust in you. Please just take a look at it yourself. It said, I know from the live videos Lewis has been working on boards that someone else has worked on, so that shouldn't be the case when we said that we were not able to work on it because somebody else worked on it. I saw a live video just a week ago and he was inspecting and repaired a board that someone else had messed up. It's just like my case. Essentially he's talking about the money and the politics and very much so pleading that I take a second look at it. Now, to be clear, once we start seeing serious type of PCB damage where you see the PCB is actually flexing as a result of what somebody else has done, at that point, we do have to call it quits. My first hope with this video is that this customer can go to any one of, I don't know what they have in Turkey, with the Department of Consumer Affairs or Ministry of Business or whatever, and file some sort of complaint that requires this technician to eventually pay him for the MacBook that he broke or restore it to the condition that it was before, or at the very least, show him that it's not that I see, oh, look, there's 2 screws taken out of this machine. I'm not going to work on it because I'm so prissy, but rather that a lot of these devices that we get are in genuinely destroyed condition. I'd like to show you what that genuinely destroyed condition is and try to give you a better idea of why it is. Unfortunately, in this case, I was not able to help you. And I'm also hoping with this that less people do what this jackass did. Because there are times where I have made mistakes. I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes. But when I make that mistake, I take out my credit card. Okay, here's a board. If I open a machine that's covered in dog piss and they say that it just had no backlight and now it's dead, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about if I have done something that is similar to what this individual did and I can see the destruction in front of me, what I do is I take out my credit card and I replace that part before the customer picks it up. That's just what you do. And if people want our industry to be taken seriously, if they want it to have a real reputation for being a proper option, then people like this need to take accountability and responsibility for when they do something wrong. The same way that I ask Apple to take accountability and responsibility for their design flaws, for the flex cable issues in the Touch Bar MacBooks, for butterfly keyboards, for everything else, I can't ask Apple to take accountability and responsibility for what they do wrong if people within my own industry won't take accountability and responsibility for what they do wrong. That being said, let's get to the repair. All right, here we're going to take a look at an A1398 that's having display issues where it's not showing stuff in the screen. Let's see if we can figure out what's wrong with this MacBook and if it's the year that has a very standard and common problem that many of them have, that now the evil iPad rehab will know how to fix because there's a spy sitting over there.
Watching everything you do.
I am disgusted at the idea that I'm showing somebody for iPad rehab how to fix something. Oh no. You know what? This is actually typically an easy fix. But instead, we're going to be leaving this one for Mark.
Oh no.
Okay, let's go over this and explain what's wrong with this machine. Typically, the only problem with this machine is that the buck converter for the GPU comes desoldered from the board. There's a fault line in this machine where there's no support for the board and it flexes. And in the 2013 and up model, they put these little foam pads in it so that it doesn't flex. But in the 2012 model, they didn't. So the buck converter for the GPU will go away, and there will be no video. And one of the ways that you can easily diagnose this is by measuring GPU vCore. You'll get 0 volts, or 0.2 volts, or 0.4 volts, rather than the standard 0.9 volts. Because this machine was touched by a fucktard, as you can see, the GPU has been reflown, and the CPU heatsink screws have been over-tightened because you can see the enamel coming off of the heatsink before they even managed to check to see whether or not the GPU is getting vCore. So I'm going to see if we can still salvage this, and if we can't, we have Mark Schaefer from iPad Rehab for all of our Zalmowing needs. He's going to carry the Zalmow ZMR 6200C up from the basement on his shoulder, set it up right on Paul's desk, and replace this GPU with a new one.
I'll do it.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is see how fucked is it that we are. How fucked are we? So I'm going to plug this in. It's drawing 1 amp, and it goes dong. Okay, now I want to see if I have GPU vCore. So GPU vCore it's like CPU vCore. If any of you overclock desktop PCs, you've probably seen CPU vCore in your BIOS. It's the voltage that goes to your CPU, and GPU vCore is obviously going to be the voltage that goes to your GPU. And you need that there for your GPU or your CPU to have a brain. And if you don't have GPU vCore, then it won't have a brain. And as you can see here, we are getting 0 volts on GPU vCore. So if we have 0 volts on GPU vCore, you don't reheat the fucking GPU, you stupid, stupid noob. Great job destroying somebody else's property.
When I see that kind of stuff in phones, I will hunt down whatever shop worked on it and call them and try to get the tech that worked on it on the phone and give him a lecture.
Yeah, like I screwed something up, but I have Mark here to help me fix it. Then Paul's going to help me fix it. And then if Paul and Mark can't help me fix it, then Lewis is taking out his credit card and buying that guy a new board. Because mistakes happen. But you don't put the mistake back in the laptop. And for fuck's sake, okay, you make a mistake soldering. How do you make a mistake with this? How do you strip? Oh, look, there's a screw. Look, there's a screw stuck in the screw hole, but there's no head. Oh my God.
Wow.
You rapist. You absolute rapist. What the... Oh, Jesus Christ. What is this? What did you do? What did you do, dum-dum? And again, like I've done stuff that was not this bad, but I've screwed stuff up. Oh, you can watch my last live stream. I have somebody who's going to help me fix it. He fixed the things that I screwed up, and if I can't fix everything I screwed up, I'm taking out my credit card and I'm getting them a new one. That's just part of how it works.
So is it possible to cause long screw damage in these laptops?
Yes, you can. If only, yeah, because the most of the screw holes are not, but the screw holes by the CPU, those, yeah. And and I don't know if you're really even fixing that because of the sheer amount of traces that are right next to the CPU. Also, the difference is in an iPhone, you don't need to actually put the screw grommet there again, whereas on this machine, you need the screw grommets to be there because you have to mount the heatsink or else it'll overheat.
Yep.
And it already overheats because it's an Apple product before you've actually...
Yeah, it overheats by design.
Yeah, and that's... I found you heatsink screw. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, it overheats already. My hope is that even though they reflowed the GPU, that it still has a chance of the GPU not being dead. I'm only hoping that they use some sort of normal heating profile rather than just full-on heat.
So you know that they used a hairdryer.
Yeah,
Or
but
a
like,
paint stripper.
you can still use you could still do a profile with it, you know. As long as you didn't just paint strip it from here. 2 or 3 minutes up here, half a minute over here,
There's no way
20
they did
seconds
that.
there, 10 seconds here, then back, you know, like, you can do something resembling a profile if you have a brain. But if you have a brain, you probably wouldn't do this. Oh my god. Another long screw. No, no, no!
Oh no.
This is actually, this may not be that bad. This is just a torn off screw grommet. Let's see, I'll defer to Mark since Mark has the expertise. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's...
The board is sticking up in this area.
Oof.
I don't like that.
Ooh, yeah. Ouch. That... If it hasn't cut lines under there, it might be pushing ground into them.
Alright, let's see what our buck converter on the other side looks like. I bet they never even touched it. Oh, it looks like somebody actually may have already tried that fix after they did all of that. Yep. Somebody already tried to do the thing that, yeah, that is not original solder.
Yeah.
Yeah, you destroyed this. Sorry, bro. Rest in pieces.
Well, it's a good thing I have enough phones to keep me busy for the rest of the week.
Is that soldered on there? Oh, man. Not the greatest, but it is soldered.
Is that chip just, like, really scraped up, or is it just me?
It looks like it's been scraped a lot. I gotta see if I have another one of these. I don't know if I trust this one. Should I waste a chip on this?
I wouldn't.
Should a chip be Damn, you destroyed this little board. You poor little MacBook. This is why it's important to have a couple of easy jobs where you just knock a cap off so your soul doesn't get destroyed. This stuff is soul destroying. Enough time of. This was so easy. This didn't need for this to happen to it. You sad little MacBook. I'm so sorry they hurt you. Tyrion says this MacBook should go to Paul. I tend to agree with you there. Yeah, there's probably shorts under the GPU or something. RIP. I took it to a local technician. He told me that he needs to change GPU. I believe he did and couldn't fix it. Didn't charge me because, so it's hard to believe that he changed the GPU and didn't charge me. I really don't know what he did, but he told me that it worked. He worked on it for almost a day and couldn't get it fixed. Technician did something. This tech that worked on this was a fucking nah. Put this back in D14. Hi.
today's a really depressing day. You had a better chance of that being fixed if you sent it to Tech Racks. All right, let's show you how that's actually supposed to be done when you don't destroy the board. And I feel really bad for the guy that gave this to that technician, because this was a fixable problem that was made unfixable by somebody who just hates little MacBooks. It's not the MacBook's fault. It didn't decide to be born a MacBook. You don't choose how you're born. You shouldn't hate somebody for how they're born.
So you think he reflowed the GPU and then looked up, like, what else could cause this problem, and then went after U8900?
You can't put too much heat in that part of the board because it has a lot of stress, because it's stressed a lot. So if you actually use hot air for a long time on that chip, it winds up fracturing the board and then it doesn't work at all. He also probably didn't replace the GPU. I'm guessing that he reflowed it and then the shorts under the GPU. Yeah. And even if none of that was true, then all the long screw destruction right next to it would have definitely been the... Because you can see it's not just that there's a long screw, it's that there's a bump in the board right next to it. I don't know how he did that, but... So see this machine? Now this is the same model as the one I just showed you, but there's a couple of differences here. So firstly, on the heatsink, you'll notice that none of the black paint or that enamel stuff is ripped off at all. You'll notice that all the screw holes are intact, and you'll notice that the edge bonding is still around the GPU. This is the same machine, it has the same defect, and I'm going to show you how this should be reassembled. And I'm only going to finish this video because I want to send it to that guy so that he can go back to the person who did this to him and shove a spiked one of these up his rectum. I'm kidding, you shouldn't do that, that's wrong. You should let the legal system do that for him. Okay, so we take this apart. See? All of these screws can come out very easily without ripping the paint off.
But when you put them back in, you want to screw as tightly as you possibly can?
Yeah, and you want to use the longest screw in the shortest hold area.
Mm-hmm. They need to be torqued to what, 110 foot-pounds?
Yeah, you have to use a Dremel at 35. This little MacBook did not choose to be a MacBook. That's no reason to abuse it. You can be mean to the people that decided that this little MacBook would be born broken. Or the people that abused it. You can be mean to the mom that chose to get drunk while she was pregnant, but not to the child who's born afterwards. It's not this MacBook's fault that the engineers that designed it were wasted the entire time. It didn't choose to grow up like this. There's no need to long screw it just because of how it was born. I saw your message, Genova. It can cause quarter fan spin. It's just logging into that questions thing is a pain in the ass, so I wind up saving all the questions till the end of the week. The two things that'll cause quarter fan spin on that is a blown R7051 or R7052, which looks fine but is not fine right next to this little underfilled audio or Thunderbolt amplifier or transistor. And the other thing is that is corrosion around your clock. But that stops at 2013 when they started using a different clock chip that doesn't have that problem. See? We remove this very carefully. The tweezers are not going to touch the board. It's only going to touch the webcam. Lift up and to the right so that we don't rip it. Yoink. Hi-Hi's going to be doing these soon enough. You've seen how not to do the stuff many, many times. Yeah. Which means I'm confident that you know how to do it the right way.
Yeah, you got to go through and show them all the ways things can go wrong first.
Yeah. Let's take a look at the buck converter on this board. And these are some awful solder joints. Yeah, let's zoom. Usually you can see one that's cracked or coming away, so I just have to up the exposure on the camera. Get it in focus. Turn my light a little down because that's too much. Yeah, it's just like little blobs. Okay. We're going to put 1 millipole of flux.
That is
1 millipole.
That's at least 6,000 poles.
Megapole?
Yeah.
Gigapole? No, it's just 1 pole.
That's a gigapole.
That's 6
Flux.
kilopoles.
tweezers.
So when did you start using the hot tweezers?
When I got this station for you, and I moved up here, since I got the tweezers for Paul and Camille, I just never got them for me because I'm cheap, and I didn't think I deserved them.
Ah, I've gotten Camille using them this week.
They're a nice luxury. They're necessary for the iPhone.
They're really convenient for any kind of resistors, filters, chokes.
And I like using them to refurbish resistors as well.
Yeah.
People are questioning why the flux is out of stock.
The Flux is out of stock because of Kevin.
Flux is out of stock because Lewis uses 1 tube per chip.
Because Paul uses too much.
No, Paul uses Lewis uses just the right.
Yeah.
Okay. Move the Flux over there. I haven't ruined a single set of tips for these either.
That is actually impressive.
Yeah, I don't know if they're more durable than the tips for the other stuff that I have. Like the micro pencil, I go through tips for that all the time.
Oh, the micro pencil sucks. I hate it.
I use that the knife tip,
Yeah, okay, the knife tip.
but I still killed it all the time.
I think the hot tweezers are much better because they hold solder in that gap.
Yeah. Okay, so look at what the Apple solder joints look like compared to these. Isn't it nice? Isn't it pretty? So the right side is the OEM solder joints, and the left top and bottom are the new ones. And we're sucking up all that junky, old junkety junk.
And the ones that you're creating there look different, look darker because they're the proper ski slope shaped joints that reflect the color of the board back up, rather than just tiny little bumps of solder.
Yeah, all the old junk is getting sucked up onto the solder blob there. So that's why I'm adding a bunch. I mean, not all of it is sticking to the board. I just want to have a nice vat of it on my tweezers and all of the old stuff to get sucked up onto the tweezers themselves. And because I have some sick, twisted form of OCD, I have to go and color in all the little probe points. It's like color. I used to do this in school too. Like instead of reading the book, I would be coloring in the stuff on the cover. Like I just have to. It triggers me seeing those little probe points there without solder on them. All right, and we have done the job using 1 millipole of flux. Now, look at how much nicer this all looks. Notice how by most of the traces by the pads, you don't see rips by each of the individual traces. Like I didn't rip anything off of the traces while I was soldering, even though I was going in really hard on that board.
Going in fast and hard? Going in fast and hard?
Going in fast and hard. That's the first thing. So all of these, even though I was like really going, you don't see that there's any rips on any of those individual traces that are going. The coating isn't ripped off. And my screw holes do not have any marks on the board where I've stabbed them. And the board is not lifting up unnaturally in areas because I've beaten it to death. Now we're going to see if this produces an image. And since we didn't use too much flux, we used just the right amount, you can see there's practically nothing on my mat over here. Because we used the right amount. The right amount of flux.
Available soon.
Available soon. And will never be out of stock again once Paul fixes the inventory system so that Kevin can no longer sabotage it.
So at the end of the week, you could sell that rag as a flux rag.
Yeah.
It's going to have at least 2 tubes in it.
No, he just wrings it out at the end of the week and puts them in tubes.
Oh,
Reused.
brilliant.
Certified pre-owned flux.
Tested.
All right. Now let's see if we get an image on this. I have a cat. Her name is Blackberry. She goes brr, brr, and meep, meep. She's so cute. I love my kitty.
You do a really good Blackberry impression.
Mark said that she was a prissy bitch the other day. Mark is gonna.
She is. She's snooty.
Mark is gonna come home to find his belongings outside. You have an Apple logo.
Look at
And
that.
also, if we were to check a GPU vCore, we have 0.9 volts. That's how it's supposed to be done versus how it's not supposed to be done. So that's it for watching, and as always, I hope you learned something. And to the individual who owns the computer that we featured in the first stream, from the bottom of my heart, I am very, very sorry that somebody in your country decided to do that to your poor little MacBook. It deserved better. It did. With that, I'll see you in the next video.